Love that little countdown. Well, anyway, the virus is spreading around the world. We're all locked in our houses. Nothing much to do, so I thought I'd put together this little presentation. I'm calling it virus or no virus, we're all connected. And we're all connected by gravity. You can see Newton's universal force of gravitational attraction, which has the gravitational constant G multiplied by the masses of any two objects, all that's divided by the square of the distance between them. So we say it's divided, it's the inverse square law. And I know that's complicated. We don't want to think about that too much. So let's simplify. Let's say there are three general rules for gravity. Gravity is a mutual attractive force. It works between pairs of objects. It operates everywhere in the universe, and it's an attractive force because it draws both objects closer together. I left the word massive out here because it doesn't really matter. If they're massive, it works, the force is stronger. If they're less massive, the force is not as strong. But gravity goes on forever, as it says in the second law, everywhere in the universe. So here we are. We have tiny little masses on the lower left and larger masses on the lower right. And the distance between their centers is the same. So we know there's more force exerted by the larger masses on the lower right than there are on the small masses on the lower left. And that's because of the inverse square rule in relation to distance. If we double the distance, the gravitational force is a quarter as much. If we triple it, it's only 1/9. If we quadruple it, it's only 1/16. And in the chart, we only go up to 5 times the distance, which is 1/25 as strong at 5 times the distance for any two masses that remain the same. Radio waves, electromagnetic waves, and gravitational waves all travel at the speed of light. So let's say I send a radio wave to a geosynchronous orbit satellite. It takes about 1/4 of a second to get there. It takes about 1.3 seconds to get to the moon. And to Mars, it takes anywhere between 3 minutes and 21 minutes, depending on where the two orbits of the Earth and Mars are, how far apart they are. The same goes with Jupiter, anywhere between 33 minutes and 53 minutes. To get to Pluto, it takes about 5 hours. It's far enough away where we start to just average it out to 5 hours. And Alpha Centauri A, our closest neighboring star, electromagnetic wave or gravitational wave would take 4 years to get there. Here I am standing in Anchorage, Alaska. That's the sun over my head at noon. The light from that sun, our sun, took 8 minutes and 20 seconds to get here, so it's 8 minutes and 20 seconds older than I am in this picture. And if you've ever been to the beach, you know that the moon causes the tides to move, and also the sun causes the tides to move a little bit. And sometimes they add together, so we get a really high tide, and sometimes the sun subtracts from the moon and we get a lower tide. So generally we consider the moon the most dominant force on the tides of the Earth, but the sun also, and the planets and the universes and all the planets and all the stars also affect everything. Now, if we have a really tall building, the building actually sways and follows the moon and the sun and everything, but the moon's closer. It does sway. You can actually measure it with a laser as it moves around and follows as the building moves and follows the moon around from the gravitational force. And also people like me standing in Anchorage, Alaska. If I stood there all day and didn't move at all, I would bend a little bit this way, I'd get a little taller, I'd bend a little bit that way, and that would be just like the building, only on a smaller scale. Now let's say the only two things in the entire universe are my hand and this cup of coffee I want so badly. If I move my hand closer to the cup of coffee, or the cup of coffee moves closer to my hand, we change where it is, we change the distance, we change the gravity, and it goes out in a sphere away from us at the speed of light. And it goes on forever, affecting the moon and the sun and the planets and the universe. Now, of course, the gravitational force between my hand and the cup of coffee is more than could be measured on the moon when my hand moves, or measured on the moon when the cup of coffee moves, because the moon is much further away. And Alpha Centauri A is very far away. It would be just a teeny tiny little force if you had a very, very sensitive instrument. And those two things were the only thing in the universe besides Alpha Centauri A. You would be able to measure my hand moving, or the cup of coffee moving, or both of them moving. And if there was a planet around Alpha Centauri, and somebody moved their hand to grab a cup of coffee on that planet, 4 years later, we can measure it here. Now, every time we move, or I move, I change my gravitation. I change my position. That changes my gravity wave, and it goes out at the speed of light. And as we all move around, we all change everything. We change our gravity waves at the speed of light. And as we all move around on our planet and other people move around on their planets in different galaxies, we all affect each other. And when we think, our brain changes chemical reactions, and molecules and atoms move around, and that changes their gravitational attraction. So every time we think, we change everything on Earth and the planets and the universe. So maybe that funny little master that we all grew to love while we watched movies on television reruns, maybe he was really onto something. So stay safe, stay inside, unless you have to go out. If you have to go out because you're a first responder, we really appreciate everything you've done. And remember, virus or no virus, we are all connected.